Well, hello. Welcome again to the 2012fad.com. I will be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night we talked about Doomsday is up to you and how, it really is your decision on what happens next to our world, to you, to me. And it takes so very little. I mean, there are 7 billion of us. There's maybe couple of thousand of them, and yet they can do anything they want to us. Isn't that sort of strange? And our masters know that if less than 5% of us, 2% of us stand up and say no, our masters are doomed. They're gone. They're done. Because the reality is our masters are parasites. And I don't know any living form of life that requires a parasite to live and to be healthy and to be happy. A parasite is what it is. It's a parasite. It's useless. And our masters are useless. And we don't need them, and they know this, and they're desperate that we never find this out. They desperately need us. We don't need them at all. And the moment that we decide, well, the moment that you decide, I've already decided, and I know you won't do it, because after 40 years I have no hope at all for you. But should a miracle happen, and should you decide to stand up and say, no, don't need you, don't want you, have no use for you, the masters are over, they're done, they're through. So it really is up to you. It's your decision. Good luck with that, by the way. Will you keep playing the stupid game of our masters, a game that has rules, but you have no idea what those rules are? Or will you simply, when you know you're sitting at a crooked card game, will you simply stand up and kick the table over because you got no choice and just say no, don't play the game, turn your backs on them, and just walk away? And you'll see them for what they really are at that point. They're nothing. They're a nightmare, if that. They're a whisper of a nightmare. And the moment you realize it's a nightmare and you wake up, it's over. The nightmare has no place to go. It has nowhere to live. They're barely a nightmare. So what's the problem? And if it helps you at all, we outnumber them billions and billions to 1. And most of us in the States, we got guns. And you don't have to be, a sharpshooter. All you got to do is generally aim the thing in the direction of where the bad guys are. Just keep pulling the trigger. Trust me, that's all you'll need to do. They'll be running, screaming in fear. Because the worst thing for a bully is to have their victims stand up and defend themselves, to fight back. Bullies are cowards. Trust me, I grew up with these creatures, and they're cowards. And it's pathetic to see it, but they need to be reminded of what they are. You need to be reminded of what you are. You're a human being. You might occasionally remember that. So tonight, I thought we might chat about a good American and what this means to you and what it means to me. Now, I'm guessing, it's just a guess on my part, that there are 2 meanings. And that you will not like my definition of what it is to be an American. My definition of a good American is the same definition I have for a good human being. Kindness, patience, tolerance, knowing the difference between right and wrong, and siding with good. Even though you're not going to get a parade, even though, you will not get a medal, even though choirs of angels will not part the heavens and sing your praises and, tell the world what a great guy you are. My definition of a good American is doing the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. That's it. That's my definition of a good human being, and that's my definition of a good American. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Now, let's take a look at what your definition is. Problem is, do we continue to live in your fantasy world and talk in fantasy terms, and we pretend that you are what you think you are? Or shall we just, go right into my world, into the real world, which to me becomes more and more real every day? Rather it didn't, but it just seems to happen that way. We could pretend, or you can pretend. You can turn your back on the truth just so you don't have to look at it. And you believe that by turning your back to the truth, evil will not grow. Evil won't flourish and destroy everything good in the world. You believe that by turning your back on the truth, nothing bad will happen. Good for you. You know the interesting thing, I've said this quite often, whenever you confront evil, don't face to face, don't turn your back and run away, because to run away from evil, what's the first thing you have to do? You got to turn your back to it. And then they can do anything they want to you. So don't run away. Don't turn your back on it. Stare it in the eye. Punch it in the nose. From personal experience, I know that bullies, thugs, cowards, monsters, demons, ghouls, goblins, whatever you want to call these things, they're, as we said, parasites, and they're cowards. You stand up to one, you punch it in the nose, it'll actually go away. Because it's not looking for a fight, it's looking for victims. Don't be a victim. Now, in your fantasy world, closing your eyes, you believe that if you don't see evil, then it doesn't exist. It can't hurt you. You actually believe that. You actually believe that if you close your eyes and you don't see evil, evil doesn't exist. Really? Well, again, good luck with you on that one. You actually believe that by covering your ears, you will not hear the screams of the innocents being kidnapped, gang raped, tortured, starved, thrown into prisons all over the world in your name. You know right now that the United States government, such as it is, has what we call coffin ships. Coffin as in putting your body into the ground. Coffin, C-O-F-F-I-N. Coffin ships. Circumnavigating the world. They're prison ships. And since they're in international waters, your government can pick people up off the streets anywhere in the world they want to, put them in these prison ships, these coffin ships, and torture them any way they want. Why? Because they're international waters. So yeah, you cover your ears. You don't have to hear the screams of the innocent. And why is our government doing this? Mostly for the sheer joy of it. There's no other reason. These are innocent people, mostly. The few that are guilty, well, that's actually an accident. So yeah, you just cover your ears. You don't need to hear the screaming of those being tortured in your name. But remember, it's being done in your name. You believe in your fantasy world that if you close your mouth, you put your hands over your mouth so you will not speak out by accident or perhaps scream in horror, when you might accidentally see your government torment your family, your friends, your neighbors, your government stealing your money. They call it taxes. It sounds better that way. But it's stealing. It's a mafia shakedown. In the movies, you see the mafia coming into a little town in Brooklyn, a suburb in New York, and the mafia starts shaking down store owners. You give us money or we'll burn your building, we'll rape your women, we'll kill your dog, sort of thing. But if you look at those movies, there's only like two guys in a neighborhood filled with maybe thousands of people. Why are you knuckling under? You all pull guns, you'll shoot them in the head. They won't come back. I promise you, they won't come back. So yeah, you live with that fantasy. Cover your mouth with your hands so you don't accidentally scream in horror in case you accidentally see your government destroying you and your family, leaving you homeless, penniless, jobless. Your children living in the family car. That sounds like fun. Or maybe in a tent city where they have lots of other little homeless children to play with. You can get into a tent city, if you're lucky, But hey, just don't notice. So there, that's your definition of a good American. Good for you. At least that's, as far as our masters are concerned, that's the definition of a good American. They tell you, as a good American, to ignore everything that you see. Ignore everything that's done to you. Listen to what we tell you. Ignore what we do to you. You and I have talked about this before. What evil fears is you listen to what they say. Then you watch what they do. If those two things don't add up, guess what? You're being lied to. Stand up. But, we're talking about you being a good American. Just ignore all that. Ignore what's being done to you. Just listen to what they tell you. And when those two things don't match, close your eyes, turn your back, cover your ears, cover your mouth. Just ignore the fact you're being robbed blind and left penniless at the end of the day. That's fine. You're a good American. That's okay. Our masters tell us that to be a good American, you're convinced that killing innocent people in countries on the other side of the world that are no threat to you at all is a really good thing. You're a good American when you approve of landmines being built and dropped on countries that you've never heard of. Now, and you can look this up on the internet. It's there for everyone to see. Our government, and the Israeli government in particular, and the British government, love making landmines that look exactly like toys or pieces of candy brightly wrapped. Now, why would you make a landmine that looks like a toy or a landmine that looks like a brightly wrapped piece of candy? Why would you do that? Well, if you want to hurt children, small children, toddlers, then you make landmines that look like toys. Then you make landmines that look like brightly wrapped pieces of candy. Because little children will be attracted to that. You know what happens when a very small child, a toddler, picks up a landmine made by the U.S. government, made by the British government, made by the Israeli government? You know what happens when a small child picks up a landmine that looks like a toy or a brightly wrapped piece of candy? It explodes. And it cuts that little child in half. Now imagine that you're the parent of that little child in a country on the other side of the world. And you see your toddler blown to pieces by shrapnel. These things are designed to blow up and throw shrapnel, pieces of metal, sideways. They are specifically designed to kill children in the most horrifying way possible. And you're responsible for that. You're a good American. This is done in your name. But you can't see that because you're a good American. You're a good American when you approve of the idea of creating weapons. For example, landmines. For example, phosphorus grenades. Look that one up. Phosphorus grenades. The Israelis love phosphorus grenades. Part of black magic ritual is what they call false light. It's where you burn people alive. Theoretically, you get their soul energy, if you believe in such things. Our masters do. Doesn't matter if you and I do. Our masters who practice black magic believe this. They love setting people on fire and watching them burn alive. Again, particularly children. And the Israelis love phosphorus. They use it on the Palestinians all the time. Phosphorus used to be called Greek fire thousands of years ago. It burns and water won't put it out. It only stops burning when it burns itself out, and it takes a long time to burn itself out. Can you imagine being hit with a piece of phosphorus and it's burning? And it burns your flesh, Burns your muscle, then burns down to the bone, and it continues to burn until it burns all the way through you. Imagine what that does to a little child. But hey, you're a good American. That doesn't exist because you don't see it, because you close your eyes. You turn your back. You cover your ears, and you close your mouth. You're a good American. You're a good American because you support Israel, one of the most horrifying countries in the world. A country that uses the Palestinian people for animal target practice. It's a country that uses Palestine for urban warfare maneuvers. Now, why do you suppose a little tiny country like Israel, that is hated throughout the world, except by America for some reason, that violates human rights of everyone they meet, even each other? Why do you suppose a little country like Israel is practicing urban warfare maneuvers? Probably the same reason that the U.S. government practices urban warfare maneuvers. They're planning to take over a country. Well, we know the United States government is bringing in foreign troops all the time, giving them U.S. Army uniforms, promising them American citizenship if they'll join the U.S. military, come into the United States, pick up a gun and start killing Americans. And these people, frankly, won't hesitate because you know what? They came from the countries where they saw little children picking up landmines. Killing Americans to them, retribution. Frankly, I don't blame them. But then you're a good American. Please, don't pay attention to this. Don't pay attention to the fact that when the Israelis, the Jews, in the Torah actually tells the Jewish people that they are the only people, and we've talked about this before, no matter what tribe you're from anywhere in the world, no matter what the name of your tribe is, it always translates to the people. And if you're a member of your tribe, then you're a person. Anyone from any other tribe is not a person, therefore they're an animal. Under the Torah, it's perfectly okay for a Jewish man to rape a small child, boy or girl, because they're not Jews. Those small children that they're raping, they're just animals. It's okay. And it's okay for this good Jewish man to then butcher the child he just raped. Again, boy or girl. And it's right and proper and just because he's a Jew, and these children, because they're not Jews, are just animals. Look it up in the Torah. It's in writing. You don't, please, for the love of God, don't take my word for anything. Just look it up. But see, you're a good American. You won't notice that because your eyes are closed. As a good American, you won't notice when your friends and your neighbors and your family, your relatives lose their jobs, lose their home. And then you won't notice when they're forced out of their homes. I have friends in the States who are forced out of their homes, or homes are being foreclosed on for no particular reason. And they're forced to sell everything they own just to get out because they're trying to follow the law. But you're a good American. Please, just close your eyes. It's okay. Cover your ears. Turn your back. While these people are being thrown out in the street. Just don't notice. It's not your problem. You're a good American. You're a good American when, as you normally would do, you turn your back on your friends that helped you in the past. They gave you kindness and love and probably cash. Never asked for anything in return. But where were you when they needed you? Well, as a good American, you couldn't be bothered because what's happening to them isn't American. It's not what you're told. It's not what you've seen, right? You can't see it because you turned your back. You can't see it because you closed your eyes. You can't talk about it because you've covered your mouth. And you probably can't hear them because your hands are over your ears. And as a good American, you cannot be bothered to help them at this time because as a good American, you need to forget that these people, these friends of yours, helped you once. You may or may not have asked for help, but they were there for you. So they gave of their own free will, not your problem. You're a good American. You're under no obligation to help your family or your friends. You're a good American. You're a good American when you see the world being murdered all around you and you say nothing. You can't say anything because some old man in a suit who you've never seen or heard before suddenly becomes president of the United States. Some guy pretending to be black who's actually Kenyan all of a sudden is president of the United States. And he tells you that war is peace, that hate is love, that up is down. He tells you that you're in danger from people all over the world who hate you because you have freedom. So you just pretend the things you see or hear never happen. You're a good American when you're told that murder is a way of life, and that it's a good life, and it's a good thing to murder the innocent. The fact that the innocent are being murdered in your name, well, that's okay because that's what a good American is all about. Me? Well, golly, I'm a very, very bad American because I honestly refuse to believe any of these lies. I prefer to believe what I see. Maybe I'm just being really arrogant. Maybe, I'm just being way too high and mighty here, because I actually have. I've had a lot of advantages that you probably never had, I hope. I was raised by CIA street thugs and U.S. Army Air Corps intelligence bullies and liars and rapists. And as part of my CIA conditioning as a very, very small child, it was necessary for the conditioning process that I be tortured and gang raped and beaten and abused on a daily basis. And as with most CIA plans, they never actually really worked that well. I never became the monster I was supposed to be. I actually hate violence, and the idea of hurting people actually makes me nauseous. So I've had all of these advantages that you probably didn't have. And so I see our masters and their servants, and I've seen them up close, and I know what they really are. I know who they are. And I may not understand why they do what they do, but to see how they think is pretty easy. Once you actually separate from what they're telling me and what I see. I go with what I see. And I know what they want from us, and I'll never give it to them. They want us not just to be slaves. That's too easy. They want us to be slaves in mind-numbing, soul-raping, constant agony and terror and fear that rips you apart from the inside out every hour of every day. And because they want us that way, because they want us terrified and hurting and afraid and in agony and poisoned by the very foods we buy at McDonald's or the local grocery store, we don't know which way is up or down, but we do know that we're afraid and we're in pain. And that's how they want us. They want us to be afraid because they want to be able to do anything they want to us. Well, thanks. I've been afraid. I grew up as a whipped dog. I was terrified of everyone and everything. I was in a constant state of fear every waking moment because that's how they wanted me to be. And after decades of that, it just doesn't work for me anymore. I'm 52. It's time to get over it, I hate violence. But I'll tell you something. If they ever decide to come for me, well, I'll kill as many of them as I can before they kill me. And I won't feel bad about it. But at this point in time, they won't even bother because to them, I'm less than nothing. You and I, we're nothing to our masters. So they'll let us talk now because they don't care. It's real late in the day for this civilization. There's a dead brown dwarf star almost on top of us. The Ice Age has started again. All of these things are completely normal and natural to our world. It's just a regular day to the Earth. Every 32,000 years, this happens. No big deal. But the masters want to make sure that we have continuous war around us to keep us off balance, while they're safe in their underground cities hiding. I guarantee they're all there hiding now, because they're cowards. They all are. And so what? If the cattle, you and me, we start talking. Well, it's everything, actually. You see, once a coward, always a coward. And should you and I, you in particular, decide to stand up, to raise yourself up off the ground, to rub the mud off of your faces, to spit out the poison you're chewing on, and to stand up and be men and to be women, and to take back our world, our masters, in their vast, impregnable underground megacities, you know where they're going to be? They're going to be wetting themselves in fear and hiding under the bed, 40,000 feet below the surface of the earth. It's only then that you will see them as I've seen them. Cowards. I mean, what are they, our masters, really? They're nothing. They're not even a nightmare. They're barely a hint of a nightmare. They're less than nothing. And you know what happens when you wake up from a nightmare, or even the hint of a nightmare? It's gone, because it never existed in the first place. Human beings? Well, human beings, they're everything. And I hope someday that you actually know that. For all of us here at the2012fad.com, this is Charlie Bluehawk, wishing you a really good day, and please remember to keep that one good thought. The 2012 Fad is brought to you by Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, a series of 5 erotica horror novels about a fallen angel fighting his way back to regain his own soul, and how the CIA war against the human race, their black magic, captures and traps him in the body of a mind-controlled slave designed to hunt down and to kill their god, their Satan.